All of the things that you're seeing here, such as the road boundaries, the lane lines, vehicles, including their position, orientation, velocity, all of it is produced by running algorithms and neural networks on our onboard computer that consumes 8 1.2 megapixel cameras. Again, everything that you're seeing here is based on pure online perception. There were no usage of radar, LiDAR, ultrasonics, or other sensors in the making of this. In fact, we don't even use HD maps, which are typically used in other autonomous driving solutions. All of this is based on the live camera video stream that produces this output, and the planning stack is able to navigate such complex scenes with just this raw live input. Autopilot already has a lot of safety features. Here I'm showing a particular mode of failure of humans where they accidentally press the accelerator pedal instead of the brake pedal. So here, for example, these people are pressing the axle pedal thinking that they're pressing the brake pedal, but the car realizes that they are doing this and are heading towards a collision and automatically cuts out the acceleration, presses the brake to prevent the humans from colliding. In the previous case, there was a person, but in this case, this driver would have launched the car into a river and the autopilot saved them. The green color output means that it's in a safe spot where there is no collision. And the red pixels mean that the car, when put in this configuration in that pixel location, is in a collision.
In this video, we're continuing the theme of yesterday's video in which we looked at the first mind-blowing footage of Tesla's FSD Beta version 10.69, stunning real-world AI. I'm going to be looking through some highlights of a recent presentation from Ashok, one of the leads in Tesla's efforts to solve autonomy, and ultimately one of the people with a major hand in what will ultimately become Tesla's artificial general intelligence. In this video, I've cut together some highlights from a recent presentation, and I'm going to do my best to bridge the gap between ultra nerdy down in the weeds, most of you'll fall asleep, and trying to explain in fairly general terms why the opportunity we're looking at here, why the progress we're seeing here is mind-blowing stuff, and why, if you're a Tesla stock investor, you need to understand Tesla's progress in terms of solving autonomy. After all, this technology in and of itself will unlock a perhaps deca-trillion-dollar opportunity. The only thing bigger than this opportunity is the woman you woke up next to this morning. So let's get into it. Guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. As always, there is a link in the description to the full presentation. If you're an AI nerd, just go watch that. You're not going to learn a huge amount of new detail in this video. I've cut out a lot of the stuff that I think will go completely over most people's heads. That being said, we are going to be a bit nerdy here, but please folks, stick with me. It's important. I'll try to keep my interruptions to a minimum, but where I think it's important, where I can add some context, I'll jump in and share my thoughts and opinions.
And finally, around 100,000 Teslas now have the full self-driving beta software. This is our most advanced driving software yet, capable of handling driving all the way from the parking lot through city streets into the highway. So this software, for example, would make the car be able to stop at traffic lights and stop signs, properly yield for vehicles that are crossing, and make protected and unprotected left and right turns, go around parked cars and other obstacles. And this is again in the hands of 100,000 Tesla customers.
So as we just saw on screen, Tesla's fleet of around 3 million vehicles today, all vehicles featuring all Tesla safety features and basic autopilot features. In addition, around 1 million Teslas, a third of the fleet, has advanced navigation on highways. In addition, around 100,000 Tesla vehicles today with FSD Beta software. Now, this is absolutely stunning, and I really do want to emphasize this point. When it comes to solving autonomy, a generalized solution that can be deployed anywhere and easily scaled, data matters. Of course, if your goal is just to keep your vehicles in a safe little sandpit, geo-fenced, HD pre-mapping and use LiDAR to make sure nothing's going awry, then no problems. You don't need a whole lot of data. You just need to figure out how to perform your party trick repeatedly and safely. And this is the key distinction between where Tesla is and everyone else attempting to solve autonomy, which the truth is none of them are attempting to solve autonomy, like I said. They're attempting to pull off a neat little party trick in certain locations, and that's totally fine. But data matters. Tesla has a fleet of 3 million vehicles currently collecting data, and more importantly than that, 100,000 of them running the latest software in terms of FSD Beta. So the big question might become, okay, well, if Tesla has a fleet of 3 million data collection machines, 100,000 of them running the latest version of the software, who has the second largest fleet and how many vehicles is in that fleet? And on this point, I'm going to let you guys and girls do your own homework here. Trust me, it's worth it. This is why I say repeatedly that Tesla's lead is unassailable. The amount of data Tesla is collecting every second is unmatched. Tesla's fleet dwarfs everything else on the planet by multiple orders of magnitude. Some people don't understand how fundamentally important the data itself is to improving this software, and they don't get it. Oh, everyone can catch up to Tesla. It's not that hard, right? Wrong. It is that hard. In order to catch up to Tesla, a company would almost instantaneously need to deploy their own fleet of around 3 million vehicles covered in sensors. In addition, they'd also need to hire away Tesla's entire Autopilot team. Good luck with that. But putting aside that absurd scenario, the point that I'm making here, as a Tesla stock investor, it's important to understand, is it possible for anyone to catch up to Tesla in terms of solving autonomy? And if so, how would they go about doing that? The way they would go about doing that is making the brutal business decision to put thousands of dollars of sensors on every vehicle produced today, despite the fact they'll get no immediate ROI just to collect the data, just to start catching up to Tesla. In addition, they would also need to start outpacing Tesla's production growth. Give or take about 1.5 million this year, well over 2 million next year. End of the decade, Tesla's producing 20 plus million vehicles. In fact, by the end of this decade, Elon Musk is extremely confident, as am I, that Tesla's vehicle fleet will number around 100 million vehicles. So in short, in order for anyone to have a fucking hope in hell of catching up to Tesla, they'd need to have a viable plan and a high probability of producing 100 million data collection centers themselves in the next 10 years. The probability of this occurring, I personally believe, is about 0.000006942%. It is possible, but the probability, vanishingly small.
Here I'm showing a video recorded by one of our customers driving around in dense San Francisco neighborhoods. All of the things that you're seeing here, such as the road boundaries, the lane lines, vehicles, including their position, orientation, velocity, all of it is produced by running algorithms and neural networks on our onboard computer that consumes 8 1.2 megapixel cameras. These cameras produce image streams at 36 frames per second, and in total give full 360-degree coverage around the car. We have inbuilt 144 teraop compute platform on every car that runs these neural networks. Again, everything that you are seeing here is based on pure online perception. There were no usage of radar, LiDAR, ultrasonics, or other sensors in the making of this. In fact, we don't even use HD maps, which are typically used in other autonomous driving solutions. All of this is based on the live camera video stream that produces this output, and the planning stack is able to navigate such complex scenes with just this raw live input.
As I mentioned in yesterday's video, this is really fucking important and something that people just don't seem to get. What we saw there, the display, what the driver was seeing is the mind's eye of Tesla's self-driving computer. Aside from the one exception I'm aware of, Comma AI, who are years behind Tesla, no one else is attempting to create a generalized solution to autonomy. In other words, what you see there, the map, the lane markings, the vehicles on the road, where they're facing, this way, that way, are they active or still? This is all being figured out in real time by the Tesla vehicle based on the data coming in from the cameras surrounding the vehicle. Everyone else, Cruise, Waymo, and so on, can't do this. Instead, they need to create an extremely high definition map of the area the vehicle is going to traverse, and then use LiDAR to make sure the car's where it's meant to be in this pre-mapped area. This is why I call this a party trick. Unless you're an AI nerd, you're just not going to notice the difference here. This isn't something that a consumer will be able to perceive. But the key difference here, Tesla has created AI that can perceive, look into the real world, just like we do with our cameras and our neural network. Understand what's going on. What is that? Is that a car? Is that a lane marking? Is that a lane divider? Is that a median strip? Is that a truck, pedestrian, dog? Are those garbage bins? Is that a traffic cone? How many lanes are in this intersection? Are those traffic lights? Which way are they facing? Which ones apply to me? Whereas Tesla's so-called competition when it comes to autonomy is basically brain dead. These vehicles aren't looking into the world perceiving shit. They're just making sure that nothing's changed from their original HD mapped area. This is chalk and cheese. It's really important to understand this. This is the most fundamental thing to understand about what Tesla is doing and why it's different to everyone else attempting to solve autonomy. A Tesla vehicle is showing the consumer, here's what I think I see. And this isn't pre-mapped. This isn't built in. This is in real time, approaching the situation for the very first time. Just like humans. This is a legitimate form of intelligence. Tesla has made stunning progress with their vision system. An outside observer watching two vehicles, a Tesla and a Cruise or a Waymo, won't notice any real difference. Oh, okay, cool, didn't kill anyone, great, yeah, whatever, they're all the same, right? Wrong. And it's so important to understand this. People aren't getting this. I've been saying it for almost 3 years straight now. Tesla's lead is unassailable, yet people don't get it. Wall Street think, oh, everyone's going to get autonomy, right? Look, Cruise and Waymo have already got some vehicles somewhere. See? It's not that hard, is it? If you take nothing else away from this video, please understand, Tesla has the world's most advanced artificial intelligence, the most advanced real-world AI, the most advanced vision, perception, planning and action deployed in the real world right now. It's there for everyone to see and understand, yet nobody gets it.
Our solution to this problem is what we internally refer to as occupancy networks. Here's an example prediction from our occupancy network. I'll pause for a moment here for you to look at the predictions.
So what we're seeing here, Tesla's occupancy network is trying to determine, is this particular point of space in 3D occupied by something or not? Most companies are currently using LiDAR or radar to determine if there's an object in the way. Tesla is doing this with pure vision, and the results are absolutely stunning. I recommend rewind, watch this again, try to understand what's going on here. It is incredible. And you guys and girls remember maybe a year or so ago when Tesla deleted radar from their hardware stack? I tweeted about this being an extremely bullish signal. Of course, the basement dwelling adult versions of Tesla Q decided that Tesla was trying to save money. They were going to kill people because now, no radar. Obviously, you can't have a self-driving car. Super dangerous. F you, Tesla. P.S. I hate my life and I hate you too, Elon. We're seeing the fruits of this labor. And again, this is one of those things that just makes you want to claw my fucking eyeballs out. People do comparisons. Tesla's only got this many sensors, but this company's got 27 times as many sensors. Therefore, it's safer. More sensors, more data, more safe, right? Wrong. Once again, we're seeing the advancement of Tesla's neural networks, their artificial intelligence, which, much like a human being, don't know if you know, but we don't have radar or LiDAR built into us, is able to infer depth, objects, and whether or not something's occupying space in physical space in 3D with just pure vision and a neural network. Tesla's occupancy network is a huge breakthrough. I'm looking forward to seeing Gali's latest monorail test. As I've said in the past, and as I'm going to continue to say because it's true, the most bullish signal we can see from any company attempting to solve autonomy is the deletion of unnecessary sensors, not the addition. There's so many companies today touting how many fucking sensors they have in their hardware stack, and therefore that equates more sensors, more safe, right? As I said, wrong. It's so important to understand this. The most bullish signal any of these companies can put out there is the deletion of sensors. Hey, guess what? We're getting rid of LiDAR. We no longer need it. Our vision's good enough. We're getting rid of radar. We no longer need it. Our vision's good enough. We're deleting a few cameras. We no longer need 52 different cameras on the vehicle. Now we only need 12 or 8. Reduction in number of sensors and formats. Just going to pure vision is the most bullish signal we can hear from anyone attempting to solve autonomy. Tesla is paving the way. As Elon has said in the past, LiDAR, fool's errand. He wasn't joking. We're seeing an example of exactly why he said this. Pure vision is all that's necessary to solve autonomy. Tesla, with just a suite of half a dozen or so cameras, cost a few bucks each, is able to do with equivalent accuracy what other companies are spending thousands of dollars on unnecessary sensors to determine.
These occupancy networks take in all the 8 camera streams of input and produces a single volumetric occupancy around the car. So every voxel or every location around the car, the network produces whether that voxel is occupied or not. In fact, it produces a probability of that voxel or the 3D location being occupied or not. Like I mentioned, it takes in all the 8 cameras and produces a single volumetric output. These networks produce both static occupancy, like walls, trees, and things like those, and also dynamic occupancy of things that are from moving objects, such as vehicles for the most part, but sometimes there can also be other obstacles that are moving, such as debris on the road. Since the output space is directly in 3D, we can predict things through occlusions. So you can predict there's the presence of a curb, even though a car might occlude it instantaneously. Finally, this approach is extremely memory and compute efficient, even though on first sight, it might not appear so because it produces dense 3D occupancy. It might appear that the volume might be too large, but in the end, it turns out to be much more memory and compute efficient because it allocates resolution where it really matters. Like I mentioned earlier, dense depth or drivable space in the image, there is very low resolution far away and very, very high resolution close by. But in the occupancy networks, you get almost uniform resolution throughout the volume that is relevant for driving. And that makes it extremely efficient. The networks that I'm showing here, for example, run within 10 milliseconds on our compute platform. This enables the network to be run at 100 Hertz, which is much faster than what the camera even produces the images at. How is this done? Let's take a brief look into the architecture. Here I've shown a couple of camera streams, the fisheye camera, which is a front-facing wide-angle camera, and the left pillar camera, which is a left side facing camera, but it does take all the cameras as input. We first normalize to remove any vehicle specific configuration, such as intrinsic calibration or distortion or things like those.
Just a real quick note on this. I've had a few people query, hey Stephen, how the fuck will Tesla license their FSD software to other companies when their cameras are in different positions, blah, 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 blah. This is actually an extremely simple problem to solve. As we just heard here, all we need to do is normalize the vision coming in from the cameras. Depending whether it's fisheye or not, there'll be distortion. This is really, really simple. I don't want to underplay it, but it's not difficult whatsoever. All you need to know is the specs of each camera and the position within the vehicle. You can adjust accordingly, and suddenly this software can be deployed in any vehicle, Tesla or otherwise. This is quite a simple process.
Once we have normalized these images are then fed into state-of-the-art backbone architectures. 3D queries attend to image space queries of all the image streams and then produce 3D occupancy features. Since these are high-dimensional features, it's hard to do this directly at every point in space. So what we do is produce these high-dimensional features at a lower resolution and then use typical upsample techniques like decons or what have you to produce denser, high-resolution occupancy. This can get even trickier with pedestrians. On the left here are false pedestrians, where these can be like statues or mannequins dressed up like real people, but those are by definition false pedestrians. And on the right side, you can see some true pedestrians, like a person in this Halloween costume standing on the side, or this crouched up pedestrian who could look like a pile of trash from far away because of how their posture is right now.
Just want to take a quick moment here. I know we're getting super nerdy. You should see the stuff I cut out. What we've just seen is an example of real intelligence. Tesla Vision attempting to discern the difference between a false pedestrian and a real pedestrian. An example there, we saw somebody in a Halloween costume dressed as a stormtrooper on the side of the road versus sculptures and so on, all in humanoid format. Now here's the question. Can LiDAR and radar do this? Spoiler alert, no. In fact, for those who don't know, LiDAR can't tell the difference between a plastic bag and a rock. It just knows there's something there and this is the approximate dimensions of that object. There's no intelligence here, whereas Tesla's system is attempting to understand, not only to see, but to perceive, to understand what is it seeing. Is that a real pedestrian or not? This really matters.
Here you can see some examples of this combined occupancy plus occupancy flow. The colors of the vehicles represent the direction of the velocity vectors. Red means the vehicles are moving along our path, and green means they're moving opposite of our path. You can even see that there's a trash bin that actually flies out in front of the car. We also get that. Here's another example of a strange looking vehicle that's crossing our path. Our regular motion moving object network did not know the type of this object, didn't know it was a sedan or a SUV, etc. But for the purposes of control, it does not actually matter. And this occupancy network provides this protection against these kinds of classification dilemmas from the network. Regardless of what's causing the obstacles, it will say that this volume of space is occupied and it's moving at this rate. These kinds of vehicles can also have strange protrusions that are hard to model using traditional techniques. Typically, people reach for either cuboids or other polygonal shapes to represent moving objects, because for the most part that is sufficient. But then the object can have arbitrary extrusion like so. And with this approach of occupancy, we get all of these protrusions for free without requiring complicated mesh-like topologies. And finally, we can also use this geometric information to reason about occlusion.
Now, this is super crazy. Make sure you're watching the footage on screen right now to see what the car is seeing. This is fucking bananas.
When the vehicle is making a protected or an unprotected turn, it needs to reason about both the things that it sees, like vehicles that are currently visible, but also vehicles that it cannot or might not see. Here, for example, this vehicle is making an unprotected right turn. There is a crossing road in front of it, and there can be potential vehicles that are occluded by the trees and the signpost on the left side here. So the car knows that it cannot see the road from these occlusions.
3 words. The car knows. Once again, a clear reference to intelligence. Versus LiDAR, radar-based bullshit, geofenced, HD mapping doesn't know shit. There is no intelligence in following your HD map and bouncing LiDAR off everything to make sure nothing's changed and you haven't gone off track. You guys understand, right?
And it also knows why it cannot see them. It knows that it's occluded by either a tree or by a different moving object. And there are different control policies that the car can come up with to deal with this and remove this occlusion. So for example, for a stationary object, it can crawl forward a few centimeters or meters before encroaching into the crossing road and check for when it becomes visible. And since we have the full 3D obstacles, we can also reason about at what speed would we hit this, at what distance would we hit this, and then have very nice, smooth control to creep up and look for these occluded objects.
Shout out to Chuck Cook. In fact, let's have a quick look at the latest footage from Chuck Cook on FSD Beta version 10.69, giving a perfect example of what's going on. We've just seen an example behind the scenes. Now let's see this in the real world.
I hear another train. No creep network. We got the median identified. It needs to stop. Okay. This is going to be another long wait. Yeah, that's okay. Let's look at this network a little bit more. We're nowhere near the limit right now. Lots of cars coming from both directions. Okay, there's a very tiny gap here that you might want to go for, but if you go, you better go. You can't go now. Stop. Wow, could you feel it thinking there? It crept out a little bit more, which wasn't a creep for visibility. It was like, I'm gonna go, but then it changed its mind because the situation evolved. That is good. That stop as soon as you see a problem, as long as you're not in harm's way. Stopping when you're in harm's way is a bad decision. Okay, this is great. We've got a red light that's creating a backup here. I don't know that you're gonna be able to see it. Sometimes in this situation, cars will stop to give you a gap to cross. Let's see what happens here. This truck is waiting. These cars are not. Is the car gonna go? Holy smokes. Okay, what's it gonna do here? Okay, is it gonna stop in the median? Holy smokes. Okay, wow. A lot of traffic coming from the backside. It went in a gap created by a human. I've now got a trailer. I can't see anything where I am, but the repeater camera has a better view of this angle than me. I can kind of pop this up. Actually, I'm sorry, the turn signal's on, so it actually shows that. But I'll pull it back up. See that repeater view? That's really good. Okay, now this car, obviously he's a truck. He can see, okay, is it gonna go? Okay, wow. So I think it went because the repeater knew it was clear. I couldn't see it. That repeater camera has a great angle with the way they've got the pose going out there. And it proceeded. I can't tell you how good that was. It did not make any bad decisions. And it fit into a gap made by a human waving somebody through.
Nothing to add. Chuck's commentary there covered it. I mean, it's thinking, changing its mind, blah, 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 blah. Again, I just want to point out, this shit is on real roads right now, okay? August 2022. We've just seen a presentation. Here's what it's capable of doing. But this isn't just hypothetical or theoretical. This software is in the process of being deployed to literally 100,000 people.
The next step is to avoid all collisions.
You guys catch that? Avoid all collisions. Now, this isn't an accident, and words matter. Does anyone get the impression that this is a fundamental principle of Tesla's full self-driving software? Rule number 1, avoid all collisions. The fact that Akash just said that, those exact words, is no accident. You see what I did? Fuck my life, that was so bad. Moving on.
Autopilot already has a lot of safety features. Here I'm showing a particular mode of failure of humans where they accidentally press the accelerator pedal instead of the brake pedal. So here, for example, these people are pressing the axle pedal thinking that they're pressing the brake pedal, but the car realizes that.
Once again, quick interjection. The car realizes, another form of intelligence. Despite the fact that the signal is accelerate, the car, using its big brain, literally, neural network, goes, hang on a minute, that doesn't make any fucking sense. They're going to fly into a river, or they're going to crush somebody's legs, destroy a few femurs between a vehicle that's right in front of them. Clearly, they don't really mean to accelerate, so that, let's slam the brakes on. Of course, you're never going to see any stories about the tens of thousands of people who've avoided permanent disabilities or injury, and the many people whose lives have been saved due to Tesla's already existing safety features, are you? No, because that doesn't get clicks.
That they are doing this and are heading towards a collision and automatically cuts out the acceleration, presses the brake to prevent the humans from colliding. In previous case, there was a person, but in this case, this driver would have launched the car into a river and Autopilot saved them. One final video here where this person again is trying to park, but then misapplies the pedal and then would have crashed into the storefront and maybe grandma here as well. Building a safe system, if safety is the only thing that matters, is quite easy. But in order for a self-driving car to be actually useful, it needs to be safe, but also comfortable and reasonably fast in transporting the person from A to B. To illustrate this, if you take a hypothetical example where this imaginary car has infinite jerk at its disposal, it goes at full speed, highway speed, say 65 miles per hour, and then just before crashing, a few centimeters before the crashing, it applies tremendous amount of braking, say infinite jerk, and axle to brake, and it would obviously instantaneously stop before hitting the obstacle. While this can be deemed as safe, first of all, it's not practical because you don't have cars that have infinite braking. But even if it had infinite braking, we do not want to use that unnecessarily. Even typical, like our Teslas, for example, have 10 or 11 meters per second square of braking, but we don't want to use all of that unnecessarily. Secondly, the car can drive extremely slow. Say, for example, the car is crawling at 1 or 2 miles per hour. It can hit the brake at any time and avoid collisions very easily, just that it's practically really annoying to drive so slow. That's why I say it takes a little bit more intelligence to do driving in a safe, comfortable, and reasonably fast manner.
There's that magic word, intelligence. And as we heard here, this is a very important point. In terms of having commercially viable full self-driving technology, it not only needs to be safe, but comfortable and reasonably fast, which we just heard requires the magic word, intelligence.
If we naively approach this driving problem using purely search-based techniques, for example, this compute can actually take a long time because you, again, want to brake early on with low enough jerk. So you need to predict that the collision is avoidable or unavoidable many seconds before the collision to hit the brakes in a smooth manner to safely and smoothly avoid a collision. The search space of such things can be quite large and can take many seconds or minutes to produce a good solution. While running online in the car, there is not enough time to do such compute. So what we do instead is we try to approximate these with neural networks. Especially with the recent advent of implicit fields, we are able to tap into the same work to produce implicit fields that encode obstacle avoidance. So what we do is we take the occupancy from the previous networks, we encode that occupancy into a super compressed MLP essentially, where this MLP is an implicit representation of whether a collision is avoidable or not from any particular queried state. And this collision avoidance gives some guarantees for collision avoidance for some time horizon. For example, we can ask, is a collision avoidable within 2 seconds or 4 seconds or some time horizon? And the query can be some high dimensional vehicle state. Here I'm showing the position, orientation, velocity, the lateral and longitudinal accelerations of the car. And based on this query state, the network can output the probability of whether a collision is avoidable or not. This gives extremely fast lookup on the order of few microseconds to produce this approximate probability of whether a collision is avoidable or not.
So quick translation here before we see this in action. What we're effectively talking about here is the same shit that people do, at least people who aren't complete and utter fucking morons. Shout out to everybody who follows way too close behind other vehicles, you fucking morons. Please get off the roads, thank you. Even if we're not conscious of it, as we're driving, we should be thinking to ourselves, hang on a minute, that car slams its brakes on right now, will I hit it? If answer is yes, then I need to be the fuck away from this car and slow down and create a larger gap. Once again, we're about to see an example of how Tesla Vision, Tesla AI, Tesla's autonomous software is making the calculations constantly. Okay, where is everything on the road? The velocity, the trajectory, okay. Are there any imminent collisions? If so, let's avoid that situation. If vehicle A slams its brakes on at full speed, or vehicle B accelerates at full speed, how can I avoid a collision? Again, this is something that we as humans, unless we're morons who shouldn't be on roads, are constantly doing. You ever find yourself rear-ending somebody because they slammed on their brakes? Whose fault is it? Yours. No, it's their fault. They put their brakes on. No, you're a shit driver. Get off the roads. Thank you. Stephen, that's unfair. What if they've got a car with incredible brakes and I've got a shitty car with shitty brakes? Once again, it's your fucking fault, you fucking idiot. You need to account for your shitty brakes. Get off the fucking roads. Thank you. Now at this point, you may be wondering, Stephen, why are you so hard on shit drivers who shouldn't be on roads? Well, pretty simple answer here. Over 1 million people die every year in accidents on roads. Tens of millions of people permanently disabled and injured. Lots of pain and suffering. Hello?
In order to illustrate this, let's look at this example where you're seeing a road from top-down view. Black pixels here are obstacles. The gray pixels here are just the road surface, and the white pixels are road paint, such as lane lines. In this top view in 3D space, you can place the car at any pixel location and simulate whether a collision is avoidable or not. If you imagine the car to be a single point mass, this and the collision avoidance horizon to be immediate, so whether the current time is in collision or not, this would really just be the location of obstacles. But the car is not a point mass. It has some shape. It has a rectangular shape, and it can rotate as well. So here, if we show whether the shape of, when we convolve the shape with the obstacles, we will know whether instantaneously whether the car is in collision state or not. So here you can see that as the car rotates, the collision field is changing. The green color output means that it's in a safe spot where there is no collision, and the red pixels mean that the car, when put in this configuration in that pixel location, is in a collision. So as the car rotates, you can see that the narrow corridors close down, because in that configuration the car would be in collision, but when it's aligned, it opens up and becomes more green, meaning that the car would not be in collision.
So we've just seen a fantastic example of exactly what our own brains, assuming we have one, are doing when we're driving, even if we're not conscious of it, making sure where's a clear path forward, where is an imminent collision, what do I need to do to avoid that, what path can I take to avoid an imminent collision.
This is a trivial task to compute, and we do not need neural networks for this task, obviously. But when we extend the time horizon to, for example, 2 seconds, now the car can perform some actions to avoid a collision. So you need to have a search over this search space to know whether a collision is avoidable or not. In this example, the vehicle is at a fixed velocity of 13 meters per second, that's longitudinal speed, and we are changing the heading. And you can see that as the heading changes, things quickly either go into collision or collision is avoidable. We can also vary the velocity at a fixed heading. So here the car is facing straight, and then we are just changing the velocity to be increasing or decreasing. And you can see that different regions open and close down based on the velocity. So if you're at a low velocity, the car can get really close to a curb and then adjust course. You can obviously do this jointly as well. Here we are changing both the velocity and the heading of the car. And you can see how, based on the configuration parameters, the network correctly thinks that different locations can be either in the car can be different locations where the collision is either avoidable or unavoidable. Finally, you can combine all of this to roll out some trajectory that avoids collision and makes progress. Here we are simulating an inattentive, distracted driver who just presses the accelerator and doesn't do any steering. And the car comes in and then intervenes whenever necessary to either steer the car or brake as necessary to avoid the collision. The car starts out here in this rollout, and then since it's heading towards this wall on the right side, it immediately hits the brakes and also steers hard on the left side. Once it's aligned there, and then it knows that it's on trajectory to collide again, so it turns right side and then aligns itself inside this narrow corridor. But the interesting thing is that once it's inside this narrow corridor, even though the obstacles are close to it, it does not freak out. It says that, okay, it's actually fine. We can go fast here because there is no risk of collision, or a collision is easily avoidable. Doing this again naively would have taken multiple minutes to come up with a solution. But then doing this using networks enables us to quickly query for whether a collision is avoidable or not, and then take actions that prevent collisions from happening. When you simulate this in closed loop, you can also see that the car is able to avoid collisions. Here, the regular autopilot system is not running. This is just the collision avoidance system running on top of a simulated human driver who's not paying attention. This driver is just pressing the accelerator and then not touching the steering wheel. And then as they are getting close to a collision, the collision avoidance system kicks in and then turns the wheel or presses the brake on its own to prevent the car from colliding. And if we do all of these steps correctly, we can produce a car that doesn't need to crash ever. Maybe one missing piece is more engineers and scientists to work on this problem with us to build this great technology. Thank you.
There it was again. Don't crash ever. And obviously a very big call to arms. Join Tesla's team, help work on this life-saving, injury-preventing, disability-preventing, pain and suffering-preventing technology. Now, I know for many of you this was super nerdy. As I mentioned, there is a link in the description of the full presentation. I do recommend you all check it out, even if some of it goes over your head. But the point I want to make here is pretty simple. We're seeing so many clear examples of advanced real-world AI, intelligence, Tesla is doing cutting edge, industry leading, world changing AI work, and it's already deployed in the real world. We just heard 100,000 people with the latest FSD Beta software. We saw so many different examples of intelligence here. The most important point to understand, there is literally no other company on the planet either attempting this approach, generalized intelligence, cameras for input, neural network for thinking. No one else, at least no one close to Tesla, is pursuing a pure vision-based approach. And nowhere will you see Cruise, Waymo, any of these autonomous companies, anywhere, doing anything even close to what Tesla is doing. You got neat party tricks versus legitimate real-world intelligence. One more time, no one is catching up to Tesla. Their lead in terms of autonomy is unassailable. They will not only be the first company to solve this incredible challenge, generalized autonomy. In addition, no one's going to be able to catch up. They don't have the data. Tesla's lead is literally unassailable, and people just don't get this. The opportunity in terms of autonomous software, which by the way, Tesla's already built the foundational building block for AGI for the Tesla bots. I mean, the implications here are ridiculous. But autonomy alone, the opportunity is an order of magnitude or more larger than Tesla's entire automotive and energy businesses. If Tesla is first to solve autonomy, if their lead is unassailable, and if other companies ultimately do end up licensing this technology, bro, you have no fucking idea. In fact, maybe you do have a slight idea. If you've seen my Tesla stock price targets available exclusively on Patreon, you might understand where I'm coming from and the potential scale of this ridiculous opportunity. And by the way, just a quick heads up, today I've posted a major update to my Tesla stock price targets, not only factoring in the stock split happening in the next 24 to 48 hours, depending on when you see this video, but I've made a lot of additional changes in there as well. So if you want to see the latest Tesla stock price targets, they are available exclusively on Patreon. Click the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment to join. And one final thing, I have no idea when the Tesla will actually deploy their first fully autonomous vehicle with no human supervision necessary. There's too many unknown unknowns. But I am here to tell you, they will be first by such a margin. Second place may as well not even exist. Something to consider. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.